Hey everybody, Aaron Counts, Sage Dynamics, and this is my review of the Siege Suppressor's ROC556K suppressor. As you guys know, not too long ago, I did a review of the ROC suppressor, the full-size suppressor. This is the K-length version of that suppressor, which uses Siege Suppressor's linear diffuser array, which is a forward venting baffle design and baffle system to propel the gases and the unburnt powders out the front of the suppressor, which is something we're seeing. As you guys know, the majority of the companies at this point have some variation of that concept, which is kind of the current future of suppressor technology. That's made of Inconel. That whole array is made of Inconel, and we got a stainless steel body. And then we have a hub-compatible suppressor, which you can either use their Stronghold mount, which works with their Defender 2-port brake, or you can run a direct thread, or being hub-compatible, you can run your chosen quick attach system. Like, for example, I use a Surefire adapter with a Surefire muzzle device during the review process. For the review process, as you guys know, we're looking at 2,000 rounds. That's going to be 55, 75, and 77 grain throughout, both cheap and high-quality ammunition, which we'll talk a little bit about. And for this review, I used a 10.5, an 11.5, and a 12.5. I didn't go any longer than that for this review, because, you know, everybody's chasing that dream of a K-length suppressor that performs really well, both tone, signature, and reliability on a shorter gun, so you keep an overall shorter package. And generally, if you're on the range anyway, you should be wearing ear pro if you're going to do more than, 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 shots anyway. For self-defense or duty purposes, foregoing ear protection because you might not have time to put it on, will the K-length suppressor still provide enough hearing protection that you're not getting an extreme pain threshold or breaking that pain threshold at the ear? First thing you notice about the suppressor is the weight is really reasonable for its size. It's just over 5 inches, 5.18 without the mount, and comes in at just over 14 ounces. It's 14.6 ounces using their Stronghold direct thread mount that direct threads to their Defender 2-port brake. I like brakes a lot because I shoot 99% of the time suppressed, and brakes do tend to act as a bit of a sacrificial baffle to help even with a good blast baffle and a suppressor if it has one. Usually your blast baffles are made of a separate type of material to be more resilient to corrosion and abuse, and brakes can help prolong the life of a suppressor. I didn't really shoot the brake a lot unsuppressed because the review's not a review about their 2-port Defender brake, but I did shoot it a little bit, and it is a fantastic muzzle device. And as an added bonus, it's got a quick thread option using their Defender system. Another cool thing about this suppressor, and this is almost a necessity, and we'll talk specifically about flash signature later in the video, but they do have flash hiding geometry built into the end cap of the suppressor, which I definitely appreciate, because that does help alleviate that muzzle signature that can be more common on forward venting cans. And rounding out the features of the suppressor, it is full auto rated with a nitride finish, and as I already said, hub compatible. So that kind of talks about everything that the suppressor has going for it, and then getting started on the actual review. It spent most of its time on an 11.5, which is one of my favorite lengths. I like 12.5s too. 12.5s is kind of my favorite length for just a dual rifle. You can get some long-range precision with some good terminal velocity at reasonable distances, but it's also, with the K-length can, is still a very maneuverable gun to work with. And 12.5 is that length where the K cans start to be a little bit more realistic for real-world uses. That being said, running this thing on a 10.5, and I ran it on a 10.5 both semi and full auto, the tone is good, and the only asterisk on that would be for the length. Obviously, a longer suppressor is going to reduce the decibel level more, but it was not an uncomfortable suppressor to shoot on a 10.5. Again, I'm still running ear pro because that's a smart thing to do, and when I go to the range, I'm usually shooting at least 200, 250 rounds, although sometimes I will shoot a full 500 round course of fire. And the ROC556K daylight, twilight performance was fantastic. Reliability is there. I didn't have any strange issues as the can got hot. The tone, to my perception, did not change in any meaningful way. And daylight signature was fantastic. And some of you may be like, why are you bringing up the daylight signature? What daylight signature? Some suppressors do have a daylight signature. You see this a lot from titanium cans. Some of them will spark for the first 200, 300, 400 rounds, and you'll see that during the day. Some of them will spark forever during the day. So if I'm seeing a noticeable signature, especially on a 10.5-inch gun during the day, it usually alludes to how well the suppressor will perform at night. But shooting it semi-full auto, mounting system was fantastic. On the machine gun, I went ahead and switched it over to a Surefire hub system because I didn't want to change out muzzle devices on that gun because I've got it perfect and it's rock setted and everything, so I didn't want to mess with that. Also, it's always a good thing for a review to test the hub compatibility if they say it's hub compatible. And it definitely checked that box. One of the issues I've run into with K-length suppressors when it comes to hub compatibility is there is an asterisk on that based on the muzzle device you're using. With Surefire, we have this strange situation where there's Surefire adapters and there's B&T hub adapters. And the B&T hub adapters, they have more standoff to them. They sit a little further out, but they've got this collar that goes into the suppressor, which can limit which muzzle devices you can use. Depending on how long the muzzle device is, it may actually bump into that rear baffle and prevent you from putting the suppressor on the gun. Using the Surefire adapter with a Surefire 3-prong flash hider, I did not have that issue, and it stayed locked up with good tightness, and performance was fantastic. Another big performance point that has become kind of a crucible for suppressors is muzzle signature. Muzzle signature is a strange thing. You know, if you look on the internet and you go back to like 2014 and maybe a little bit before that, you see a lot of photography and videos where everybody was just kind of bragging about the muzzle signature that their rifles had, and everybody was shooting big fireballs and things like that, which was strange to me then. And then finally, everybody wised up and were like, no, that's actually bad, and they got away from it. You never really saw that with suppressors, but I always thought that was kind of interesting. Muzzle signature is a big deal. It's something we definitely have to be worried about. We're talking about low light situations. So I usually do my muzzle signature tests on a short gun, and I use the cheapest ammunition I get my hands on because that's kind of the worst case scenario, right? Some cheap American Eagle, or maybe even, I don't shoot reload 5.56, but maybe you do. Some cheap reloaded 5.56 with a short gun. How is the signature going to be, and how is it going to be cold? Because some suppressors, once you fire 2 or 3 rounds through them, the signature is not so bad. And then you have the issue of building up gases in suppressors. If I only fire 1 round and then my next round isn't fired for 2 or 3 seconds, the muzzle signature may be different than if I fire 3 rounds in 2 or 3 seconds. As that gas volume builds, you may get the occasional significant muzzle signature that's going to be noticeable to the naked eye. So shooting this thing cold for a muzzle signature in low light conditions, the muzzle signature to my eye was not noticeable. I literally had to look at the video that I filmed to notice any signature at all. And that's shooting shotgun with American Eagle 55 grain, which isn't the worst ammunition, but it does have a little bit more of a muzzle signature than some of the other ammunitions out there. And a lot of things go into muzzle signature besides the suppressor itself. You're also factoring in ambient temperature, humidity, again, if the suppressor is hot or not, if it's a volume of fire or not, if it's 1 round every couple of seconds versus 4 rounds a second. A lot of different outside factors play into that. But with the ROC556K, that cold signature was not noticeable to me at all. And then I started doing, some strings of fire to see if I was going to get volume, the occasional volume signature, which is something you will notice more on forward venting suppressors. To my eye, from my perception, from my shooting perception, I didn't notice it at all in higher strings of fire. Again, I could pick it up. I could notice it when I watched the videos, but it's not something you're going to notice significantly at any reasonable distance from the suppressor itself. Night vision performance, obviously under night vision, you are going to have a greater signature because night vision magnifies light, but even running this thing under nods, and usually under night vision, if it's got a little bit of a flash in low light, you'll notice it a lot more from the shooter perception or night vision, and it can actually cause you to lose momentary sight of your target between shots. Happy to report that was not a problem on the ROC556K. Under night vision, it ran like any other suppressor. Any suppressor that I would choose to use would perform. The muzzle signature wasn't detrimental to my ability to shoot, transition, identify targets at all. Another factor in suppressor performance is return to zero. For those of you that are going to take your suppressors off your gun, keep them on your gun. There usually is going to be, almost always, going to be a difference in point of impact if you're zeroed on a suppressor and you take the suppressor off and shoot the gun unsuppressed. For my testing, I ran it on my 12.5, which is it's a Sage Patrol accurized barrel from Roscoe. I use this gun quite a bit. I like it because it's a shorter, more compact firearm, but it is still very inherently accurate at long distances. It is a sub-MOA gun with the right ammunition. This is shooting 77 grain Black Hills, and what I did is I zeroed the gun to the suppressor and fired a 5-round group. So this is a 100-yard bipod bag-supported 5 rounds with the ROC556K on that Roscoe 12.5-inch patrol barrel. So it did not affect the inherent accuracy of the gun at all. In fact, as suppressors sometimes do, it may have made it just slightly more accurate, which is something that we do see. Then I removed the suppressor from the gun. So the next 5 rounds through the gun is the suppressor removed, and I fired another 5-round group, 100 yards, bipod bag supported, 77 grain Black Hills. So, of course, it's to be expected. There is a subtle shift in your point of impact because the gun was zeroed suppressed and then I took the suppressor off. That's to be expected. The shift is not that bad at all. I was actually really pleasantly surprised with that, and it's something that you can dope for throughout the testing. I'd put the suppressor back on, take the suppressor brass off, shoot groups, and I wasn't seeing any significant change in point of impact when that gun was unsuppressed, so it is a repeatable something you could dope for. And then, of course, finally, will it return to zero? So I went ahead, put the suppressor back on, and fired another 5 rounds, 15 rounds through the gun for this period of this portion of fire to see if I had a return to zero. So here's 100 yards, bipod, bag supported with the suppressor reattached. So for accuracy and return to zero performance, I'm very pleased with that. It's hard to find a suppressor that doesn't do that, but they are out there. And it's just, to me, it's a good confidence building exercise for new equipment to make sure that it's not going to have any consistent aberrations in its performance when going from suppressed to unsuppressed, or any of the other things that I do in my testing. Over the 2,000 rounds, no suppressor issues, no baffle strikes or anything crazy like that. And the initial erosion, again, we're only 2,000 rounds into it, but the initial erosion is kind of not noticeable. The suppressor obviously is dirty because it's been shot 2,000 times. But the baffle stack, the baffles are holding up, that blast baffle, everything is looking really good inside that suppressor. And now I've got another K-length suppressor that fills that category of a shorter suppressor that brings that decibel level down below that pain threshold, so it could be used for self-defense or duty purposes. I like the suppressor a lot because it fills that category of short suppressor. It's not unduly heavy. It's got good signature reduction. It's got good noise reduction. And it's built to handle extreme use, extreme abuse. So this is definitely a suppressor that's going to be going in my regular rotation of suppressors I use for teaching classes or doing high volume round counts when I take classes, or just go up the range and do a lot of practice shooting, my methodical processing through all the different drills and scenarios and things that I like to run in practice, or if I just want to go up and mag dump in a trash. This is going to be a good suppressor for that. So some people may feel overwhelmed by how many suppressors that are out there. I think it's a very good thing that we have so many options to choose from, because you can really narrow down specifically what you want instead of having to buy, 19 different suppressors and kind of weeding your way through them. I think it's awesome that this suppressor performs virtually identical, except for decibel reduction, as their full-length suppressor. And I think that's a tribute to their linear diffuser array. Their design, their baffle design, is not significantly changed by a reduction in length. And that's pretty cool. Obviously, going to be louder. Yeah, you got to expect that. And forward venting cans tend to be a little bit louder anyway. But until we have a significant change in chemistry or metallurgy, we're probably not going to see a huge departure from the way that suppressors behave as far as how well they're able to reduce decibels based on length. So as a K-length suppressor, this is definitely the best one I've shot this year. And definitely one of the better ones I've shot in recent memory, and it's probably going to be permanently seated until some significant changes in technology occur with the best ones that I've shot overall. I can't say it would be the one because I hate that question of if you can only have one, but if I had to answer that question, it would be one of the ones that I'd be considering, absolutely. Till next time, Aaron Cow, Sage Dynamics, train accordingly.